Some of the so-called best cameras of 2025 might actually be the most overrated. And the shocking part? You might even own one of them. Today on Alt Buzz, we're counting down 10 cameras that don't live up to the hype. Watch closely because your favorite brand could be on this list. And if you want more no-fluff camera talk, don't forget to hit subscribe. Let's dive in. At number 10, Nikon Z52. Released in 2024, the Nikon Z52 was supposed to be the entry-level mirrorless camera that would finally make everyone forget about DSLRs. Nikon updated it with better ergonomics and added subject detection autofocus. Sounds great on paper, right? Here's where it falls apart. No in-body image stabilization in 2025. Can you believe that? While every other manufacturer is putting IBIS in their entry-level cameras, Nikon decided it wasn't necessary. The sensor? It's basically the same outdated 20.9 megapixel sensor from years ago, just recycled with minor tweaks. And don't even get me started on the lens ecosystem. If you're buying into APS-C Nikon Z mount, good luck finding affordable glass that isn't a compromise. DPI review users literally called IBIS overrated, but then admitted it's needed in the same breath. That tells you everything. In community polls about the worst cameras of 2025, this one kept popping up with users noting there's no real advancement here. It's like Nikon phoned it in. The crazy part? They're still charging premium prices for what feels like a half-hearted update. Would you pay full price for yesterday's tech with a slightly prettier face? Because that's essentially what the Z52 offers. Sure, it'll take decent photos for beginners, but at this price point, you could get so much more from the competition. At number 9, Leica SL3. Oh, the Leica SL3. Released in 2024, this 60-megapixel full-frame mirrorless beast was supposed to be the ultimate professional tool. Leica promised their legendary build quality combined with cutting-edge technology. The reality? It's basically a status symbol that happens to take pictures. Let's talk about that price tag first. We're looking at nearly $7,000 for just the body. For that money, you'd expect class-leading autofocus, right? Wrong. The autofocus system feels like it's from 2019, consistently getting outperformed by cameras costing half as much. The body is so heavy you'll need a gym membership just to carry it around all day. And those ergonomics? They clearly prioritize looking sophisticated over actually being comfortable to use. Forum polls consistently labeled it overrated for professionals. Users complained about ergonomics and value, with many pointing out that you're essentially paying the Leica tax without getting Leica-level innovation. The 60 megapixels are nice, sure, but when your autofocus can't keep up with a moving subject, what's the point of all that resolution? Here's my hot take. If you need to show off at a photography meetup, get the SL3. If you actually need to get work done reliably, save yourself $4,000 and get literally any other flagship camera. The image quality is excellent when everything works, but for $7,000, when everything works, isn't good enough. And honestly, even the most expensive cameras sometimes mess up colors or skin tones. Later in the video, I'll show you a tool that basically fixes that for free, and I've even done a full breakdown video on it. Links in the description if you want to check it out after this one. At number 8, Leica Deluxe 8. Speaking of the Leica tax, here's the most blatant example from 2024, the Leica Deluxe 8. You ready for this? It's literally a rebadged Panasonic LX102. Same 17 megapixel sensor, same dated specs, double the price. This isn't even subtle. Panasonic makes the camera, Leica slaps their red dot on it, and suddenly it costs twice as much. The sensor technology is from 2017. The video features are laughably outdated. 4K at 30 frames per second with a massive crop? In 2025? Come on, Reddit threads absolutely roasted this camera, calling it the Leica tax without any of the value. In every worst cameras of 2025 list, this one appeared with reviewers questioning who would actually buy this. The answer? Brand enthusiasts who care more about the logo than the performance. The worst part is that Leica knows exactly what they're doing. They're banking on brand prestige to sell outdated tech at premium prices. And you know what? It's working. There are people out there actually defending this purchase. Would you pay double for a 7-year-old camera just because it has a fancy logo? Let me know in the comments because I genuinely don't understand it. Before we get into the really controversial picks, make sure you're subscribed. These next cameras have some seriously passionate fans who might not appreciate what I'm about to say. At number 7, Sony A12. The Sony A12. The flagship that was supposed to end all flagships when it dropped in 2024. 50-megapixel stack sensor. AI-driven autofocus that can supposedly track a mosquito in a hurricane. 8K video. On paper, this thing should destroy everything else. So why is it on this list? Because Sony basically gave us the A1 again with a slightly fancier autofocus system and called it revolutionary. The overheating issues in 8K? Still there. In fact, some users report it's actually worse than the original. That battery life they claimed was improved? Maybe by 5% if you're lucky. Pro photographers are burning through batteries faster than they can charge them. Digital Camera World and YouTube roundups consistently call this camera overhyped with incremental updates. Reddit threads are full of complaints about the same old Sony ergonomics and what users affectionately call menu hell. You know it's bad when people create third-party apps just to navigate your menu system. Here's the kicker. They're charging $6,500 for what feels like a firmware update that requires new hardware. The original A1 is still 95% as capable and costs thousands less on the used market. Sony was so focused on maintaining their spec sheet lead that they forgot to actually innovate where it matters. Better heat management? Nope. Better ergonomics? Not really. Better value? Absolutely not. Don't get me wrong, it's still an incredible camera. But when you're asking for flagship money, incremental updates don't cut it, especially when Canon and Nikon have caught up and in some ways surpassed Sony in areas like color science and ergonomics. At number 6, Nikon Z6 III. The Nikon Z6 III from 2024 was promoted as the ultimate hybrid camera with its partially stacked sensor and impressive 4K video capabilities. Nikon fans were excited. This was supposed to be the camera that would finally make Canon R6 II owners jealous. Plot twist, it didn't. The dynamic range that Nikon is famous for? Mediocre on the Z6 III, that legendary Nikon color science? Still good, but not enough to save this camera from its other issues. The autofocus that was supposed to rival Sony? It hunts in low light like it's looking for Bigfoot. And at $2,500, it's priced right alongside the Canon R6 II, which frankly runs circles around it in most situations. DP review forums lit up with discussions about how this camera isn't changing anything for users. YouTube reviews titled Best and Worst of 2025 consistently called it disappointing for mid-range professionals. Users expected a versatile all-rounder, but got a camera that's good at video and inconsistent at everything else. The real problem is that Nikon played it too safe. They recycled features from other cameras in their lineup without adding enough innovation to justify the price tag. It feels like they were checking boxes rather than pushing boundaries. In a market where Canon and Sony are constantly one-upping each other, playing it safe is the same as falling behind. By the way, speaking of Nikon, we just uploaded a video about the rumored Z9 II that's got everyone talking. Check it out after this one. At number 5, Fujifilm X-T50. The Fujifilm X-T50, the retro-styled camera that launched in 2024 with a 40-megapixel sensor and in-body stabilization. Fujifilm fans were losing their minds with excitement. Film simulations, classic design, modern specs. What could go wrong? Well, apparently everything. First off, no weather sealing on a camera that costs $1,700. In 2025, Fujifilm expects you to baby this thing like it's made of tissue paper. The burst rate? Pathetically slow for a camera at this price point. And that dial-heavy interface everyone loves? It's becoming more gimmick than functional. Try changing settings quickly when you're shooting, and you'll understand why pros are moving to cameras with modern controls. In Worst Camera of 2025 polls, the XT50 ranked embarrassingly high. DP review threads are full of users saying it's not worth the upgrade from older models. Reddit called it hyped but underwhelming, and they're not wrong. The camera excels at producing nice JPEGs straight out of camera, but if you're shooting RAW and actually want to edit your photos, you're better off with literally any competitor. Here's what really gets me. Fujifilm knows their audience will buy anything with film simulations and retro styling, so they're coasting on aesthetics while the competition innovates. The XT5 exists and is better in almost every way, making the XT50 feel like a deliberate attempt to squeeze money from newcomers who don't know better. We actually just covered the rumored Fujifilm X80 in our latest video if you want to see where Fujifilm might be heading next. And here's the thing, you don't always need to upgrade your camera to get better looking photos. Evoto AI is this editing tool that literally fixes colors, skin tones, and lighting in one click. But it goes way beyond that. You can batch edit hundreds of images at once, apply professional-grade presets, smooth out portraits naturally, and even fine-tune exposure or contrast without spending hours in Lightroom. If you're new, you can sign up free, and your first edits don't cost a thing. You only spend credits when you export more. Basically, instead of stressing over whether your camera can deliver perfect files, Evoto AI does the heavy lifting for you. And if you want to see it in action, I already made a full dedicated video on Evoto AI. Links in the description. At number 4, Panasonic Lumix S9. The Panasonic Lumix S9 from 2024 was hyped as the compact full-frame camera for creators. Built-in LUTs for video, compact design, full-frame sensor. Sounds perfect for content creators, right? Until you actually try to use it. Let me tell you about the lens they bundled with this camera. A 26mm f8 pancake lens. f8. Do you understand how dim that is? You basically can't shoot indoors without cranking the ISO to the moon. The lens is soft even when stopped down, which defeats the entire purpose of having that full-frame sensor. Petapixel literally called it the worst lens of 2025 in a rushed package. But wait, it gets worse. No mechanical shutter means you're dealing with rolling shutter effects constantly. No EVF means you're composing everything on that rear screen in bright sunlight. Good luck with that. Reddit users echoed the sentiment that it's disappointing for the price, and when Reddit agrees on something, you know it's bad. The crazy thing is, Panasonic could have made this amazing. Slap a decent f2.8 pancake on there, and suddenly you have a winner. But no, they went with f8 to keep it thin and completely destroyed the camera's usability in the process. It's selling okay among vloggers who don't know better, but anyone who's actually tried to shoot with this thing in real-world conditions knows it's a compromised mess. Speaking of Panasonic, we recently covered the rumored GM5 Mark II that might actually fix these issues. Video's already up on the channel. All right, before we reveal the top 3 most overrated cameras, let me just say these next ones have generated more controversy than any gear I've covered this year. The communities are divided, the forums are on fire, and honestly, I'm prepared for the comment section war that's about to happen. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time because you're going to want to see the fallout from this. At number 3, Canon EOS R1. Subscribe now because this one's controversial. The Canon EOS R1 from 2024. Canon's flagship, the camera that was supposed to dethrone Sony's dominance in the professional market. Advanced AI autofocus, built for sports and photojournalism. The marketing campaign was insane. Canon ambassadors were calling it revolutionary. Then it launched. The battery life is embarrassing for a flagship. You're swapping batteries more often than changing lenses. Overheating during extended use? Oh yeah, it's there. Try shooting a long event and watch this expensive flagship turn into an expensive paperweight. And those class-leading features Canon promised? They're marginally better than what Nikon and Sony offer, but certainly not worth the premium price tag. Photo Rumors polls labeled it among the worst cameras of 2025. DP review forums are full of complaints, calling it a rushed flagship. The low-light noise handling that Canon usually excels at. Weirdly disappointing on the R1. It's like they focused so hard on speed that they forgot about image quality. Here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Canon rushed this to market because they were losing ground to Sony and Nikon in the flagship space. The R1 feels like a beta product that customers are paying $6,000 to test. It's fast, sure, but so is the Nikon Z9 at the same price. And the Z9 doesn't overheat when you look at it wrong. Canon loyalists are defending this camera like their lives depend on it, but even they can't explain why a $6,000 flagship has worse battery life than cameras costing half as much. The sales are solid because of ecosystem lock-in, but this camera is riding entirely on Canon's reputation rather than actual merit. At number 2, Leica Q343. The Leica Q343 from 2024. The fixed lens full-frame compact that costs $4,200. Let that price sink in. $4,200 for a camera with a lens you can't change. Leica promised this would be the ultimate street photography tool with their legendary color science and premium build quality. Here's what you actually get. A grip so poorly designed that photographers with normal-sized hands are buying third-party accessories just to hold it comfortably. Autofocus that struggles in any challenging situation. Dynamic range that gets beaten by cameras costing a quarter of the price. And that fixed 43mm lens? Sure, it's sharp, but it's also incredibly limiting. Want to shoot anything other than street photography? Too bad. DP review users called it expensive with a fixed lens and ergonomic struggles. X posts, consistently labeled it as more of a status symbol than a practical camera. The image quality is good, don't get me wrong, but it's not $4,200 good. You could buy a Fujifilm X-T5 with 3 premium lenses for the same price. The worst part? People are actually buying this thing. Leica's marketing is so good that they've convinced photographers that limitations are actually features. That fixed lens isn't restrictive, it's disciplined. That poor autofocus isn't slow, it's deliberate. The ergonomic issues aren't flaws, they're character. This camera exists purely for people who want to be seen with a Leica. If you actually want to take photos, if you actually care about getting the shot, if you actually need a reliable tool, this isn't it. But hey, it'll look great on your shelf, and isn't that what really matters? At number 1, Sony RX1R3. And here we are, the most overrated camera of 2025. A camera so overhyped, so disappointing, that it's become a cautionary tale about believing marketing over reality. The Sony RX1R3. Sony revived their RX1 line in 2025 with this premium fixed-lens compact sporting a 60-megapixel full-frame sensor. The photography world went absolutely insane. Forums lit up. YouTubers couldn't stop talking about it. The return of the legend, they said. The ultimate pocket professional camera, they claimed. The reality? It's a masterclass in how to disappoint an entire community. The ergonomics are atrocious. It's like Sony deliberately made it uncomfortable to hold. The battery life is so bad that you need to carry 5 spares just to get through a day of shooting. But here's the real kicker. The price. Sony is charging more for this fixed lens compact than most manufacturers charge for a full mirrorless kit. And for what? Nostalgia? Rumor sites called it an overhyped revival. Reddit threads compared it to paying Leica tax, but without the Leica badge. The expectations were for a pocket professional camera that could replace a full mirrorless setup. The reality? It's a niche product with so many limitations that even the target audience is questioning why it exists. The autofocus hunts in situations where your phone would nail focus instantly. The image quality at high ISO is beaten by cameras from 3 years ago. The fixed lens, while sharp, makes this a one-trick pony in a world where versatility matters. Sony banked on the RX1 name carrying this camera, but a famous name doesn't fix fundamental flaws. What really bothers me is that Sony knows better. They make incredible cameras. The A7 series is phenomenal. But with the RX1R3, they got lazy. They assumed brand recognition would be enough. They assumed photographers would overlook the flaws because of the heritage. They were wrong. High-end sales are modest at best, and that's being generous. The people who bought this camera early are already listing them on used markets. Forums are full of buyer's remorse stories. This isn't just overrated, it's a complete misunderstanding of what photographers actually want in 2025. Would you spend $5,000 on nostalgia? Because that's what the RX1R3 is selling. Not innovation, not practicality, just the memory of what the RX1 used to represent. And that's our list. But before you go, I want to thank everyone who showed incredible support for our top 10 best travel cameras video. The response was amazing and really helped us understand what you want to see more of. By the way, if you want to try Evoto AI yourself, I dropped the free link below along with my full breakdown video. Test it on your own shots and see what difference it makes. You might not even feel the need to chase that next overhyped upgrade. So what do you think? Did I miss any overrated cameras? Do you disagree with any of my picks? Let me know in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear your experiences with these cameras. Maybe you've had better luck than the thousands of disappointed users online. And thanks me later for the Evoto AI. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you really want to support the channel, consider sending a super thanks. It helps us keep making these honest, no-nonsense reviews without worrying about keeping manufacturers happy. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next controversial countdown. Until next time, this is Alt Buzz reminding you that hype doesn't always equal quality. Stop believing the marketing and start demanding better. Peace out.